the reality is we control nothing. So the false illusion that we control something so that when something feels out of our control, it never was in our control. So that's number
Yes.
one. Number two is because of technology again and this immediate gratification, we have forgotten discipline. And discipline is required in anything that you want to have any kind of success in. Of course, there are flukes. Of course, there are, exceptions to the rule. But why are you assuming that you're going to be the exception?
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice.
Welcome to another episode of Bailey and Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. We always like to kick off each show by reminding you, if you are struggling, that there is no shame in that. Get help. If you're waiting for a sign, if you're waiting for an answer, this is it. Go get that help. You can use the 988 crisis line if you need support right now. You can also dial 911 if you are really in an emergency. And we have the kennedykids.org resources page. You can go to kennedykids.org, click on that resources tab, and we have all kinds of different resources there for you from all different types of organizations and institutions that you can check out as well. But the point is, you are not alone. We are not alone. And that's why we do this show each and every week. We're really here to promote mental health and prevent suicide, right? It's really something that's touched all of us in different ways. And that's why we're here. So with that, if you're new around here, I'm going to take a quick second and introduce our host before we introduce today's guest, which we're so excited about. But I am Misty Buck. I am your mental health and performance coach. I'm also an author. And I am joined by Bailey Brooks Mashford. She is a former NFL cheerleader, a celebrity wedding and event planner, and she is the executive director for the Kennedy Kids Foundation. And we are also joined by Robert Bailey. Robert has a ton of accolades, as you know, but he is the man. He's won Super Bowls, college national champions. He's an ESPY winner, holds an NFL record that will for sure never be broken.
Wow.
And he is the president of Kennedy Kids Foundation. Why are you giving me this? And Rosenhouse.
That means it will never be broken.
It will never be broken. Sorry, he was giving me, you guys are listening, he was giving me like a thing under the chin. Like, I didn't know if you want me to stop talking or what. Anyways, we'll keep talking about your accolades. It'll never be broken. And all right. So with that, you guys are done here. Am I rambling on? So we have a super special guest today. I'm so excited. So this is the first time ever, you guys, in the history of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. This is a really, really big deal. Due to popular demand, no lie, we have our first repeat guest ever, Chef CC Pean. If you missed her first episode, highly, highly, highly encourage you go back and listen to it because it just was one of our highest rated and listened to shows ever. She just talked about so many amazing things. And today we are going to dig in deeper. Today we're going to talk about topics like purpose and excellent, how nutrition plays a part in all of this. So before we were on air, Chef, welcome to the show. Before we were on air, we almost had to hit record because we just started going in deep and Bailey said, wait, we need to record this. So, but with that, I want to make sure we welcome you to the show. Let's just dig right in. So Bailey, where were we? Because this was such a good conversation we started to have.
We had found out that somehow she knows somebody that's related to Brian McKnight, who's in Take Six. So Chef CC, can you recall that moment for us? And because we're just tying this in because Brian was on our show and then we went off the deep end talking about how it ties into mental health and into the wellness and the nutrition factor. We're going to get back there. So we want to bring you to that moment. But we thought that was pretty cool that you had that tie-in.
So my brother, Alvin Venetia, who is...
Venetia!
He's like the most amazing brother ever. He really is. And he has been the base in Take Six from its, basically from its inception. So he is over 40 years. And Brian's brother, Claude McKnight, is in that group. So I have then known Brian that long, but previous to that, I went to college. Actually, it was before I even went to college. I met Julie and Brian. And so our conversation was that he had been on the show and that there were some negative comments. And my response to that was, we all need healing.
Right.
You know, we are at a time in our country where there's so much brokenness and there's so much blame being placed. And I'm not speaking specifically about that situation, but just broadly, that people take sport in other people's demise and their pain, and people have these, it's is it Schadenfreude, is it called? Or there's a German term that speaks to people like actually getting pleasure out of seeing people being hurt. And it's so twisted and it's so dark. And you have to be really conscious to not get pulled into it, because I've got to tell you, there are times when I'm scanning social media and somebody says something and I've got a zinger in my holster and I know I can hit them with it, right? And there are literally times where I have to say, Cynthia, don't write that. Like, why would you write that? And I'm going back and there's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if there is a sense of feeling important, if there's a sense of being better than somebody, being smarter, appearing smarter than somebody, that we put ourselves in those positions where we've gotten comfortable belittling people, and diminishing people's lives to a snippet or an incident. And it's really sad. It's really sad that that's where we are, because we all need healing. I was saying on it, individually, we need healing. Familially, we need healing. Community-wide and nationwide. But we're so distracted that it's not happening.
I think, you know, they say Twitter fingers, right? I think what has happened over the years, and I'm in my mid-50s, I think what's happened over the years is through technology, people have used the advancement of technology really to connect with others without having their identity really be known. Right? So if you are a coward, social media and technology allows you to be a bigger coward in the dark. And a lot of it, like you said, like nowadays, people are really have this incredible happiness about just
pleasure.
Just pleasure about just putting a negative comment in someone else's account, and they don't even know the person, but they'll say something so hurtful that some of these celebrities actually, from comments, go into depression.
Yeah. Oh,
and they talk about cutting off their social media, and some have even like gotten off social media for months at a time. Some people a year, and sometimes when I'm surfing, I'll go into a celebrity social media, and I'll see that I'm not able to even like comment, right? Because they'll cut that comment off. And in my mind, I'm like, good for them. They are controlling their area, their energy. And it's obvious that something had happened in the past to make them do that. But again, one of the biggest reasons is just because social media allows people to really hate on other people without
they're hiding
their identity.
They're literally hiding. Like they're hiding who they really are, and they're just saying whatever they want because there's no recourse for it whatsoever. And if you come and attack me back, it's just like a Twitter war or finger, like and then you're just you got this whole trolls. Like I call them internet trolls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they're literally just trolling people to say negative things. And Chef CC,
So why are they doing
there's
this?
a whole industry
Well,
of
I mean,
bots.
Yeah.
There's a whole industry of bots.
Yeah. And I think people also like to feel like they're being heard, and maybe they're not being heard in other places in their life. And everyone loves to have an opinion. Everyone loves to talk about their opinions. And so these spaces give them the opportunity to do that. But I think what you were alluding to, Chef, is that we're losing respect for one another in this division.
Absolutely. I I'm so surprised. I'm 53 and I just remember there's so many things that used to exist when we were younger. And I'm going to give you an example. And it's amazing to see how it has contributed to, I think, to the breakdown of just courtesy and knowing the appropriate way how to do things. When I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones.
And
So-
you had spankings.
What?
But I'll stop.
Yeah, I was there. I remember when we didn't have cell phones.
But
Me
so
too.
if somebody wanted to call me, they had to pick up a phone and call. Of course, my parents 99% of the time answered the phone. You had to say, Mrs. Shia, this is such and such. May I speak to such and such? You
Oh,
better
yes.
do it that way. If you wanted to talk to me, you better do it that way. So there was like a gauntlet. It was almost like a gauntlet that you ran through where you learned how to approach, how to speak. You learned respect for elders because you were calling someone's home and you're asking to speak to their child. And it's interesting, Robert, because you brought up technology. And this is the flip side of technology. So now we have this one-on-one access. We can bypass the parental input.
Right.
And so you have young people that aren't really developing the skills of knowing how to speak to people. And then you bring these same young people and you put them on social media. So they have no clue as to what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, what you say. Like, I've had experiences with young people that I'm like, who raised you?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Just basic respect and decency is learned through things like that. And that's now taken out of the equation. And I personally see how it has changed so much. It's pervasive in our society. And what I think it really boils down to is there's a lack of accountability. There's always an excuse for poor behavior. We could go on and on about that, how not being held accountable for things, it's a cancer that is spreading through our society. And so when people don't feel like there's any recourse for bad behavior, human nature is to push the envelope. And that's
Right.
why these horrible things are being said to people. Sometimes I read comments and I'm like, why would you ever write something like, you don't know what that person is going through,
Right.
And going back to suicide prevention, there are countless people that are completely despondent, that they're one incident away from ending it all.
Right.
And this person's interaction with them can be the catalyst. And it's just really, really sad. And it's not insurmountable, but I don't think people value it. I shouldn't say people. I think there's a large segment of the population that do not see the value in it. And so it's just
Yeah.
by the way.
Here's
Next. So what's coming next now, I'm seeing on commercials and it's blowing my mind, is this new Gemini feature on technology where you can just pick up your phone and be like, hey, what should I do today? And it talks back to you in live, real-time conversation where it knows you so well because it's been living in your phone for however long and has already analyzed all your data. So now you think that these kids growing up are not going to be able to talk to people person to person because now the younger generation is going to be talking person to technology. And they're going to be so used to talking to their Gemini assist or whatever it's called these days and having that communication level. And so the breakdown is going even further because now you're removing the need to have a conversation with another human being. And I think that came from you triggered the fact that when you said what you were saying about the breakdown is that they also removed cursive writing from schools. So think about that. We used to handwrite cursive notes as thank yous at the end of every.
Oh, yeah, no. My stepdaughter still does it. My son, when he learns to write, will do the same thing. Someone gives you a gift,
Okay,
you
good.
can write a thank you note. Like
Good
that.
for you, Misty, but they took cursive writing out of school.
Oh, she can't read cursive for nothing. But
So the
she writes thank you
discipline,
notes.
the discipline is
It
about
was a discipline because we weren't emailing each other, we weren't texting, we weren't doing all this stuff. We were
no
also adding to
acronyms, no
handwriting,
emojis. You had, so here's,
full sentences.
this is so great. This is so great because, for example, I have said I'm excellent with directions. Once I started using GPS and I started using those direction apps, I stopped paying attention
Yeah.
because it thought for me, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you're saying about this AI. We're not thinking. These algorithms have dumbed us down to the point that we don't even have to think. It tells us what to think. It tells us what's important to us. And the other day I was on Instagram and I noticed that so many of the pages that I liked and I was on, my friends liked and I was on. And I said, that's a problem because we're all being fed the same information. We're not being challenged. We're not being challenged. Technology is about making us comfortable and making things easier, but it's dumbing us down at the same time because we're lacking the ability to learn how to think critically about things. And we don't realize, as I just said, we are being told what to think. And I don't, go ahead.
No, I got a question. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just talking about technology in terms of your space, how has technology really affected the food industry? In your mind, how has technology affected the food industry? Because now I see a lot more when I go into the store, I see a lot more pre-prepared meals
Oh, yeah.
that are in some sort of plastic container or covered with some plastic and it's frozen, but they
Or
label
GMO.
it as healthy or how has technology in your mind affected the food industry, rather, bad or good? I want to hear your take.
Well, there are conveniences of it, but there is such a dark flip side to it, like you were just saying, the packaging. Think about sustainability and we think about the environment. We are sacrificing environment for convenience. I just watched a documentary on Netflix that was talking about the amount of waste that we create.
Yeah.
And living in the first world, the developed world, where you are, it's set up to distance you from what is distasteful, right? If we had to kill chickens and kill goats and kill ourselves, I promise you, most of us would not be eating meat, but we're distanced from it. We just go and we get it in a nice, pretty package. We bring it home and we,
Right.
with our trash, go through 5 Ziploc bags a day, just put them in the trash can. You don't think about where it's going. You don't think about the impact that it's making on the environment. Comfort is built into the American lifestyle. And that's the same thing as destroying the American lifestyle.
Right.
So technology is great in that I can be in the kitchen and I have decided what I'm going to prepare for my client. And I realize that there is something that I had there that somebody used at midnight because they wanted to make something. And so I have to go on my iPad real quick and alternative to this particular spice. And boom, it's there. I've got it. My issue is fixed, right?
Yes, that's the positive.
Great things. Those are great things. You have access to recipes from around the world. You have access to spices and you learn about techniques and things in an instant. I'm very particular. I can say award-winning chili recipe, vegan, no beans, whatever, boom, it'll come up.
Wow.
I can put there's so much available to you. So technology is great, but there are parts of it that are destructive because technology is about immediately satisfying you.
Right.
Right? So you're in that space of you're not thinking about the repercussions of this decision, whether it is, you know, I got this thing sent from Australia and, you know, it came in a special parcel and it came on a plane that did this and they did that because I wanted this particular lamb from New Zealand and I got it and my client is happy. But what did it do to the environment in the meantime? You know, there are so many little things, and you have to really look at what you value. And what happens over time is in your pursuit of excellence, in your pursuit of being the best and giving the best, you start to compromise. You start to compromise on those things, and you make decisions that are not best beyond your immediate situation.
How do you
And
balance that, Chef? Because I think that, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but like, how do you balance that? Because there is, we all, I think, always want to do better, and we're all inundated with information. And there's all like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have thrown away that Ziploc bag. I probably could have reused it. Do I feel guilty about that? Do you know what I mean? No, because this
Yeah.
is the kind of stuff it goes through
Yeah.
my mind too. So it's like, where do I find this balance between like I'm doing my best and I'm being responsible and true to my values?
it's really sobering and it's incredibly difficult. And it's you have to be committed. You have to be committed. I remember when I was in culinary school, I had a classmate who would put like tape on her Ziploc bags. If there was a hole in it, she would just tape it and she would use the hell out of that thing until it's just like, there's no way for you to possibly.
Disintegrated.
Yeah. And that was her thing. My thing is, I just try not to buy that. I try to buy, you know, glass containers that I can close up so I don't have to do that. But if I do use Ziplocs, I try to use them over and over again. It's just being conscious. It's being a conscious consumer and it's being aware of your contribution to waste. And that's something that the average person doesn't think about it. I've got to look up the name of that documentary, but it is compelling and it's sobering and
I think I know which one you're talking about because it was really like referring to a lot of the fashion industry as well.
fast
For
fashion.
trashing and the fact because of the fast fashion.
Oh yeah, that's a new
Season-
one that just
yeah.
came out. Yeah,
Those-
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Even wise, like it used to be like there'd be a fall collection, there'd be a winter collection, there'd be a
Right.
spring collection, but now it's like there's a January collection, a
Right.
February collection,
Right.
like it's like
But they're using up more fabric.
They're
and
Yeah.
they're
not only are
trashing it,
creating
they're
more fabric.
trashing it.
The fabric
Yeah.
that is being created, the gases and all the things
The
that go into it, they're
chemicals.
being released into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to this is not a negative plug to Lululemon. I love my Lululemons. I'm still shopping at Lululemon, but like I have seen so many Instagram videos about the chemicals that are in Lululemon pants that are
Oh.
apparently making women have cervical cancer because most women
Our
wearing-
skin is the
Well,
largest organ.
it's your largest organ,
your largest organ.
and you're wearing the pants unwashed. Well, that's why they tell you to wash the stuff when you buy it before you wear it to at
Right.
least get some level of it removed. But
Right.
they're saying that the chemical stays in the fabric so long, and most women wear Lululemons without underwear. So it's
Yes.
literally like up against your skin in your private areas, and they're seeing different cancer people.
Absolutely.
And you're not pointing out Lululemon, but
No,
the-
no, no.
the-
Yeah.
It's
the
the
perfume,
industry
that-
across
that
the
type
board.
of clothing,
Yeah.
that
And
type
I
of
think,
clothing.
but I think it's your point too. Like people are looking at, is it cheaper? Do we make things more profitable? And that's what people are really focusing on. So like, for example, my husband just told me a story the other day. You know, these companies that go around, they decorate your house for the holidays. They charge a certain amount per house. And then after that's over, they just cut, instead of storing the lights, it's cheaper to just cut off all like the strings of lights, throw them away and buy brand new lights the next season.
100%, because the actual cost of the install is in the labor. It's not
Yeah.
actually in the equipment.
Yeah.
So it's cheaper for them to just get rid of it because storage fees for a whole next 11 months
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
making any
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
no sense. So yeah.
Convenience is killing us on so many levels. I understand the desire for it.
Of course.
Gen
But-
Z.
Yeah,
well, it's also
convenience.
we've been programmed to be more productive, be more productive.
Yes.
You know,
And that's the thing about technology too.
Yeah.
To your point, right? Like every time a new technology thinks, oh, great, I'm going to save time by using Chat GPT, and now I don't have to think about this because I could just plug this in and it'll bring out whatever. But every time there's new technology, we fill that time with more stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We don't take a break. And I think
No.
we're losing our level of patience with other people because of how
Yes.
quick stuff is coming to us
Uh-huh.
that we're not used to waiting. So the minute you have to wait 5 minutes, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I personally think that the thing that made America exceptional at one time was our sense of community. We were Americans. We were Americans, and we stood with that valiantly. And then these separations started. And I think the only way back is a sense of community. You know, the Black community, which I kind of don't like that term because we're not a monolith. We're so diverse. That was something that we've always had in our back pocket. I was talking to some friends last night and I was saying, in the Black community, everybody's your cousin. Everybody's your this, everybody's your that. We, because of what we went through during the slave trade and all that separation and things like that, we cling to community. But even that is being threatened because you have people that are just like, you know what? I'm just going to worry about me and mine. And I get that to a sense, but we're all interconnected. No man is an island. You know, you may be making $2-3 million a year, and you feel like that guy, that poor guy down the street, you know, he's going to do. Guess how he's going to handle his business? You think he's going to rob other poor people?
Right.
He's coming to you. You
Right.
know, so we don't think about how just little steps that we can give towards acknowledging and developing community can make a difference. But we've gotten into this mindset of what serves me, period.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about. My family and me, everybody else can fall by the wayside. And I think that that is one of the major things that is destroying our culture. And I think it's destroying our mental health because there's so many people that have no one and no one cares because you're not my responsibility. You're not, you know, you do you, I'm going to do me. And there are people that are really, really suffering. You know, I've talked to you about my social anxiety, and I have to be very honest with you. Over the last few weeks, I have felt like this pressure. I've just felt because there's so many things that are coming at you. You know, if you've got 3 seconds to spare, they want to get in there and they want to get their message to you. And what I think that we have to get back to is not only community, but I think that we need to get to a place of being okay with quiet, because that's when the universe, the divine, God, whomever you believe in, that's where he can't speak to you when you've got all this stuff going on. You know, you can't get clarity, you can't get direction. Even if it's your inner voice, even if you don't have a thing for the divine, you can't even hear yourself think because
So-
we're so inundated with all these messages.
That is definitely a message that Kennedy Kids Foundation actually promotes, which is like meditation. So we always try to
Absolutely.
share mental health resources with
Mhm.
our listeners and our followers. And one thing is to be still and just sit in the moment and listen. Take the use breathing techniques and use if you can't find yourself able to sit still. My husband really struggles with meditating. So what he does really well is he walks. So when he walks, no music, he's meditating the whole 4.5 miles. And he really gets a sense of messaging and clearing his head and being able to clarify. And so I think for us, it's really important to also see where we can clarify our bodies through the nutrition that we're ingesting, because we're also
I was about to
convoluted,
say that.
confused,
Mhm.
with what we're putting in. Like, to be honest with you, I'm scared to drink water because
Mhm.
I feel like there's so many microplastics in water, and that cancers in women really, and well, cancers period really got I didn't feel like when I was a kid, cancer was such a big thing, but that's when bottled water really spiked. And they're talking about all of the gas that's in the plastic that's seeping into the water, and not to freeze it, refrigerate it, or let it get hot in your car, because then more of that petroleum leaks into the water and then you're chugging it. So if
It's a
people
lot.
4 and 5 bottles of water a day, how much microplastics before it causes a 10-centimeter tumor that we're calling cancer in your body that needs to be removed and treated?
There's a lot. There's a lot, which is why you need meditation, because you have to find a place within yourself to quiet the noise. You have to get to a place in yourself where there's a term that I grew up hearing, the peace that passes all understanding. You've got to get to a place, because stressing about that increases your cortisol level. And that's a whole nother thing in and of itself, you know?
Yeah.
We are in a pickle. I don't think it's hopeless. I think we just have to pivot. We just have to learn to deal with the cards that we have been dealt. We have to learn to deal with the lemons that we have been given. And we just have to be more aware and more intentional in how we live our lives and how we do our things. And for you to talk about meditation, one of the things my husband always says is prayer is us talking to God. Meditation is God talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so incredibly important, that we take time for ourselves every day and center ourselves. There's so much anger out there. There's so much confusion out there. There's so much frustration and panic and terror. People are just overwhelmed with so many things. And unless we figure out a way to calm ourselves, I see mental health issues as exploding. It's going to continue to explode.
It explodes for us. I mean, that's our focus, Kennedy Kids Foundation. It's explosive for us. We held our annual event last night for our board recognition event. And it's kind of a thing that we've done since inception, every December at Art Miami. And literally one of our board members went home and already heard that another teen committed suicide from her kid's school. And so we're trying to keep as many people out of that club as possible, which is how, Robert coined it last night that everybody loved, is like, we're trying to prevent anyone else from joining this wicked club. And we literally want, but it's like how it's coming from everywhere. It's bleeding out of everything, out of every industry, out of every person, out of every level of financial wealth or poverty. Like it's just so prevalent that it's like, how much more can we provide for people wise, or how much more can we do for people just to make people just need to be feel more happy. And I feel like they feel like they're looking for validation on social media. They're looking for validation from family members because they're not getting it where they think they should be getting it. So they're more angry and they're taking it out on people that they don't really know.
Right.
And it's like, if people focused on just being kind on their own, if people focused on what they were putting out, they would realize that the universe would pour that back into them, because it's cyclical. Like, it comes back to you, and no one's pouring it out on a consistent basis. I know I'm not. I think, if I scored myself, I'd be like, I'm about a 7 out of 10, maybe honestly a 6. And I root for improvement to pour out more into other people as far as being kind on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're also living in a society that doesn't want you to be satisfied with yourself. They want you to be unhappy, because if you're unhappy, you're going to buy this makeup. You're going to buy this, you're going to buy this, that. You're going to, there's all these things that come from you being dissatisfied with who you are.
Yeah.
A big moneymaker.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is a piece of this conversation here. You're talking about meditation, you're talking about connecting with yourself. And I think people get intimidated by that for a number of reasons. One is, I hear this all the time, I can't make my thoughts stop. That's not what meditation is. That's not what meditation is, because your thoughts are supposed to come. What meditation is noticing, there go those thoughts again, but not being hard on yourself, not judging them. Just boom, let me come back to my breath. Let me come back to whatever my point of concentration is. If it's not your breath, if it's an affirmation, whatever it is. But the point that I really wanted to to bring out here is what you spoke about, and you guys were just talking about this of um we're seeking validation elsewhere.
Mhm,
When you get still,
mhm,
when you're right, and I'm sorry to put this out there like this, when you're right with the man above,
mhm.
you don't need validation from anybody or anything else. And
Yeah.
I think that we're as humans, we want that, right? Like we want approval of other people. We want people to like us and we want that, right? We see this with athletes in transition. They struggle a lot, Robert, this after the game. It's because they poured so much of their identity and they're so attached to that identity of being an athlete. So anytime you're attaching your inner value
Mhm.
to something outside of you that you have no control over, right? And things that can change, you're setting yourself up to suffer. And we all do this. This is human nature. So, but I think the meditation allows you to become aware of those things of like, okay, this is upsetting me, but why is this upsetting me? Am I allowing something outside of first of all, notice that I'm upset. And then second of all, am I seeking validation elsewhere? Right. And that's what meditation does too. It kind of allows you to slow down and just observe and reflect and become inner stillness and connect one body, one mind, one breath.
There's two things that you said that I want to expand on. First of all, things that we can't control. And, the reality is we control nothing. So the false illusion that we control something so that when something feels out of our control, it never was in our control. So that's number
Yes.
one. Number two is because of technology again and this immediate gratification, we have forgotten discipline. And discipline is required in anything that you want to have any kind of success in. Of course, there are flukes. Of course, there are, exceptions to the rule. But why are you assuming that you're going to be the exception? But discipline is something, and it's amazing because if you just look over the years, and I'm sure if you look back and you see little things, you're like, discipline was the key. I have over the past 5-6 months made some serious changes in my life. For the longest time, quick fix. I was just quick fix, just get the weight off any kind of way. I never really thought about committing to something. And it's transformed my life. And I'm learning a little bit every day, is how you get there. But the average person, you default to what's easy, what's quick, what's going to require the least of me. And I feel like I'm going to get the biggest reward. And that's something that we have to break out of.
I'm watching you, Chef CC, and I noticed like you have some beautiful skin. I don't see a wrinkle. You got no blemishes. You have absolutely beautiful skin. You have to tell us, what is it that you're eating to have such, I know they say black doesn't crack.
Yeah.
But what is it that you eat on a daily basis? Because your skin, and maybe Bailey and Missy could, back me up here, but your skin glows. And what is it that Chef CC eats? What is it that's on your daily menu for us to get skin like that?
Well, there are 3 things I'm going to say. First of all, my father is an indigenous West African. He's a Liberian crewman. My dad is literally from a tribe and he grew up in the bush.
Wow.
So, and my mother was Black and Indian. So a good percentage of it is genes. And so I can't take any credit for it. It was a gift. The second part is I do try to eat very healthy and clean. I avoid processed and packaged foods.
But how hard is that? How hard is healthy and clean? Because as you said, you avoid packaged food, but
let's let her finish what she's got for the recipe for the skin first.
Oh, go
ahead. Bailey and I are ready to write it down.
When you speak about diet, again, It's prioritizing your health. It's saying, okay, this is Sunday. I'm going to take 2-3 hours and I'm going to prep these things so that I'm not grabbing foolishness when I'm in the checkout line at the store, or I'm not grabbing this to be a meal, because I prioritized my health, so that's the second thing. And then the third thing, to be honest with you, is being at peace. I think there is a glow that just comes from truly being at peace with who you are.
No stress.
You've gone through these changes, and one of the greatest lessons I think that we can learn as individuals is to learn to sit in your discomfort and push through it. Instead of pushing it away, it's
Right.
to deal with those things. And once you do that, you have a different way of interacting with the world. But getting back to diet, which I think is really, really optimal, is that I believe in eating foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. And when you eat things that are
Raw.
close to its natural state, I do raw sometimes, but everybody's body can't handle raw. Sometimes raw diet can be too taxing on someone's digestive system. So I don't suggest that as like everybody should do that.
Is that because they didn't eat raw for a long time, and now or if you did that for a long time, your body could handle it?
It just depends on some people's bodies just can't handle it. Just like some people can't drink milk, some people can. I don't know
got
the
you.
reason, but yeah. So I think diet is very important. And not only is it important in terms of skin, but when we talk about clarity of mind, there's so much that goes into how your brain works optimally. Your body is a temple. Your body is a temple, and we are stewards of this temple. We're given this one temple to care for. And so think about what you're putting in it. And I think we spoke on this last time. Literally everything you put in your body is either contributing to health or it's contributing to your demise.
Oh, yes, you did say that stuck with me after our last show.
There's no gray with diet.
Yeah.
It's black and white. Everything you eat is either contributing to your health or it's contributing to your demise. And I know that there are times, like the holidays, people want to treat themselves. And I'm not hardlined like that. But I do think that when you're going about your daily, you need to make sure that at least 80 to 90% of your diet is clean.
What five things do you say you have to have in your refrigerator or pantry? 5 foods, in your Chef CC's opinion, 5 foods that have to be in your
Diet.
refrigerator or your pantry or in your diet.
So I would say something like quinoa, a grain like quinoa, because your body processes that differently than it does like rice or something like that. Quinoa is great. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can make porridge from it. You can make a fried quinoa, like a fried rice from quinoa. You can make quinoa patties. There's so many things you could do to it. And it really lends to taking on flavors and, seasonings and things like that's number one. Well, not number one. That's one of the other thing are dark leafy greens. Dark leafy greens are great for spirulina and they're great for chlorella. They're great for giving your body that energy that you need. The next thing I would say are berries. Organic berries are great. They're antioxidants. We've got so many things that are coming at us in the environment, and they fortify your system so you're able
Finally,
to
something you like to eat, right, Robert?
I eat berries every single day. I go in, even at the restaurant, they said, "You want a fruit plate?" I said, "Only berries."
Yeah, berries are great. That would be the third thing. I would say some type of protein. If you are a meat eater, I would say something like a lean, a chicken or something like that. Or I know a lot of people like bison and things like that. For me, I tend to do tempeh, I do tofu, and things like that. By the way, people always wonder when you're eating a vegan or a vegetarian diet, how do you, vegan mostly, how do you get your protein? Protein literally exists in every fruit and every vegetable.
Yeah. Like peas have a lot of protein, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was funny because my husband was just saying last night, have you ever heard of anybody dying of a protein deficiency? You don't, when people have cancer, that is the one time that their protein, they really need to fortify their protein. But, it's available in all of those things. And I probably would say something like dark chocolate. Something like dark chocolate, because
You can get behind that.
you can get antioxidants from it. And it's, and it's dark chocolate that's not laden with a whole bunch of sugar. It's pure dark chocolate.
Robert and I are starting our dark chocolate and berries diet today. That's all we're eating.
So what I do is I buy dark chocolate.
Oh, you're on
I
track.
buy peanuts. And I eat them together, because when you buy them already put together, I'm like, man, they threw some butter in there. They do, whatever they do in order to create that processed food. So I buy the dark chocolate, like you said, it's like 70, 80%. And then I buy peanuts and then or almonds, and I eat them together and I get my treat.
Okay, try them now and try your dark chocolate mix with raspberries. It's phenomenal.
I gotta try that.
You're on track. And the other thing that people should know is your taste buds change. They regenerate frequently, regularly.
Yes.
So once you start eating in a certain way, your palate will adapt. You know, and when you've done that and you go back to doing something like eating a Twix or a thing, and full disclosure, there are times I'll just be like, I just want I want a Kit Kat or two. I eat that thing and it's like my throat closes up because there's so many preservatives. It's not pure sugar. It's corn syrup. It's all of these things. And my body rejects it.
That's so scary to me, because I literally can throw down a Snickers and I'm happy as a clam. And I'm realizing when you said that, I was like, wow, she really is cleaned up. Her diet's super clean, because my body's like, yum, yum, yum.
Yeah.
And yours was like, no.
Yeah, your palate will adapt. And so that's a good thing. When you want to make that change, if you're consistent and you're disciplined, it can happen. And there's so much that opens up, I mean, and we can, and Robert, from exercise, there's so much eating right, exercising, the right mindset. What can't you, those are the keys to excellence.
Right.
That's the key to being an outlier. That's how you do it. It's not big things, but it's consistently doing little things every single day.
How often a day do you eat? Like, how many meals do you eat?
I probably eat about 4 small meals. I eat right after I come from the gym. I usually have like a protein shake. Like midday, I will have maybe quinoa, a quarter piece of avocado, and I'll have some tofu or something like that. And I'll have some, maybe stir-fried spinach or some raw spinach or something like that. And then I love doing things like soups because they're very satiating and you can get so much in there. You can put beans, you can put greens, you can put so many different, a chicken or a vegetable broth where you're getting that collagen that's great for you. Yeah. And then for the evening, I might have like an apple with like some peanut butter or something like that. So
your largest meal, do you have a larger meal of the day?
My largest meal, or typically my largest meal is like around breakfast. But since I've been working out, I get out at 5:30 in the morning and I'm exhausted and I come back and I just I'll have a shake and then I'll just take a nap.
But typically you say your largest meal of the day is on
breakfast.
The front end of the day.
It's at the front end. And that's really how you should eat, because your body is burning all day. And when you're
eating a
meal at night, you're laying down and your body is sluggish and it's not digesting that food as best. It's best to eat your largest meal earlier in the day.
And that right there was one of the key messages and one of the most important messages I take. Because America mostly eats their largest meal at dinner.
Yeah. It's all, look.
And dinner's a lot later than it used to be. Dinner used to be 5 o'clock when I was growing up. Dinner's like 8 o'clock now.
Yeah. And it's a social thing.
Yeah.
And that's where those prepackaged things come in, because mom comes home after a day of work and she's not into, unless she started that crock pot before, or that Instapot, she's going to do something that's going to be convenience. And so it is really putting value into those types of things. We've stepped away from it and we need to get back to it. And sometimes not sometimes, it is the requirement for that is simply planning and making it a priority.
So, Chef, when you're talking about values, I think that's really been a theme of this show. The things that the back to basics that we need to get back to, that we are just veering from. Robert said top 5 things in your cabinet. What are the top things that you think we need to be getting back to on basics in terms of with ourselves and getting right with each other?
I think authenticity. I think being authentic and being honest and being kind. I think kindness is a big thing. I was talking last night with some friends who've got we were really blessed with a couple that are great friends of ours. And we have these deep dive conversations. And we were talking about this whole thing with Trump and, people are despondent and, there's so many emotions. And then there are people that are just elated about it. And my friend was saying, somebody who voted for Trump, I have nothing to say to them. I have nothing to say to them. And I said, I've started to look at that differently. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, people voted for their interest.
Right.
People voted for their interest. Like, I voted for what I thought was going to benefit me most.
Right.
Be okay with it on our side and then get upset when somebody does it on their side. It is the nature of the beast.
I agree.
But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, when you want to, I'm better than this person. I would never do that. I would never do this. But there's so many compromises that we make daily that, that are questionable.
Right.
So I think that compassion and kindness are things that,
you need to get back to.
We need to get back to, and they're looked at as though you're a punk or you're soft or you're something like that. And
it's on the labels.
Yeah.
It is.
But did you know that statistically, there's been studies done on this, that self-compassion actually increases your mental toughness?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Because you don't beat yourself up. And so you get over faster, you move on faster. And so by doing that,
let me tell you,
that's what the studies say.
You just hit on something so powerful, because the reality is a lot of what we do is projection. A lot of what we do is projection. So
100%.
Yes, a lot of times we're not compassionate to ourselves, and so we're taking it out on somebody else instead of us sitting with this discomfort and working through whatever has us feeling this way. We outsource that. We project that on somebody. So much is projection. And I have, unfortunately or fortunately, had so many incidences in my life where I have been like, how did I miss that?
Right.
How did I miss that? And it's so humbling when you realize, like, I know somebody that I just thought this person had a problem with me. I mean, I created this masterful scenario in my mind about this person. Well, come to find out, she was diagnosed with bipolar in her 40s. And I knew her all through her late 20s and her 30s. So everything I was seeing, and I was attributing it to me, which is, there's a little bit of narcissism when you think everything revolves around you.
Right.
But I was contributing it to me. And when I heard what she was going through, I literally wanted to cry, because I was like, not only is there this diagnosis, but you didn't find out till you were in your middle 40s. So you've been struggling all these years trying to appear normal, not, I shouldn't say normal, forgive me for that, trying to not let whatever is tormenting you be obvious to everybody.
Right.
And I'm sitting over here thinking it's about me, and you have an issue with me.
Right.
And that really humbled me.
Yeah,
And I
because you're
thought,
making it about yourself too, and the other person's the one having an issue. So that's such a relevant statement because I noticed like people usually accuse other people of doing the things that they are doing themselves. And it's because they know what the practice of doing that action that they're accusing the other person of doing actually is because they've lived it. So it's like that scenario where like I'm being accused of cheating on my significant other repeatedly, and I'm defending myself saying, no, no, no. But the whole time it was the spouse. The whole time it was them.
mhm,
And every little thing that I did that remotely looked like what their cheating action actually was, they were assuming that that's what I was doing too, because it's really what they were doing. And so that outward projection of that onto other people makes total sense. And I've never seen it in the capacity that you just presented it. So I love that. I do want to go back to something you said that we were having a conversation last night with a few of your friends
mhm,
about like the whole Trump and how they voted, how people voted, right?
mhm.
So one of the things that I only recently realized was that when I'm receiving on my social media feeds and TikTok, X, whatever I'm on, there other people aren't receiving. So when you were saying earlier in our podcast that, you know, you noticed that your same friends were liking some of the same stuff that you were liking, it's the same for like people who followed the opposition or whoever you didn't vote for or didn't believe in. They're not getting the same info we're getting on our social feeds.
So,
They're getting totally different information, which is why we're so on opposite sides sometimes, because we're like, but how can you? And they're like, no, how can you? And it's because everybody's being fed different stuff that they're not realizing we're not even having the same conversations anymore.
Yeah, technology.
and
Yeah.
fear
Right
is
back
such
to
a
that.
big fear is such a big motivator that to keep us separated like that. And I'm not saying that systemic racism does not exist. I'm not saying that, you know, there are all these major issues. They exist. They absolutely exist, but they're being used to keep us separated and keep us pitted against each other and keep us from seeing each other as human beings,
Yeah.
fallible human beings. That at the end of the day, what everybody wants is to feel heard. They want to feel important. Some
Mhm.
people want to feel anticipated. That's what it boils down to. And so you gravitate towards people that make you feel like I am okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There's this beautiful practice in mindfulness and other schools of thought. It's called a just like me meditation.
Mm,
And there's a meta meditation too, which is where you are expressing um, kindness to others, whether you know them or not, either in specific individual or communities at large. But there's also something that's called a just like me practice.
uh-huh.
And basically, it's like you're kind of doing a meditation, and there's phrases like just like me. You think of a specific person. This person wishes to be at peace. Just like me, this person wishes to be loved. Just like me. And it's phrases like that that I think is what is kind of to sum up, I think what you're saying
Mhm.
is that we need to pause, take those inner moments for stillness for ourselves, reconnect, get clear, but then use that time to also pause and say, you know what, this other person wants the same things that I do deep down.
Mhm.
We're all the same. We all want peace. Who doesn't want peace? I don't know
Right.
one person that doesn't want peace.
Right.
Right. So whether I'm on the same side with you or it's not, I can look at you as a human being and say, yeah, but you also want peace, just like me. We're
But
approaching it from
some
different ways.
Some people, that's just not their focus, though. It's not even on their
Yeah.
list of
No.
desires.
Right.
Right.
Because we have been trained to look for differences.
Mhm.
We've been trained to look for distance. We haven't been trained to, and there was a time, again, when we saw ourselves as Americans, when we saw ourselves as exceptional. There was a time when, you know, I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. You know, there was a time when that was the thing. I remember when I moved to New York City in 1996. One of the things that I loved about New York City, as big of a city as it was, as many people that was there, it was a community. because you were forced to interact with people. You may be a hedge fund billionaire. I may be a drunk, or I may be somebody who works at McDonald's. We all, maybe not the billionaire, but we all got on that train and we sat next to each other, and we all were looking at that person in the corner, wondering, and if something went down, we were all going to be in it, And I remember at that time, dating myself, cell phones were still a thing. And I remember standing on the corner and looking for a quarter, and somebody saying, "You need a quarter?" And they gave me a quarter in New York City. People were looking for opportunities to connect and, but there's this thing that has shifted now because and it's like, you're over there and I'm over here, and it's not possible that my girlfriend said to me, "I have absolutely nothing in common with a Trump supporter." And I said, "Do you love your kids?" You know what I'm saying? Like,
back down the foundation, fundamentals, and basics. Yes, we're all here at the end of the day. Do you love your life?
We're going to survive.
Yes.
That's the only way. All this anger and stuff. And again, like I said, I'm not saying that these things don't exist. I'm not. But this anger, in that sense, in terms of vilifying people, I don't see how that is going to serve us, especially with what we're about to go into. I don't see how it's going to serve us.
100%. Well, Chef CC, is there anything that you would love to leave our listeners before I wrap today?
I think one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves is authenticity. I think being at peace with who you are serves the world, because if you're at peace with who you are, the less likely you are to project negative things, because you've dealt with those shadows. You've sat in them, you understand where they come from. And because you are in a place of acceptance, you're more likely to be able to accept other people for just being human beings. You may not like their choices, but you say, that is who that person is. And the sooner that we come to accepting people for who they are, the better off we will be.
Chef, so I love everything you're sharing about skincare, but I heard a rumor, and maybe you can help us correct us if we're wrong, but because, rumors are out there these days, right? But I heard a rumor about something about you and a skincare line.
Yes. As we were speaking earlier, and I was talking about that your skin is like your largest organ. Yeah. And we were talking about how, cheap clothing and all these chemicals get into your skin. So I've been asked numerous times, as Robert did, about my skincare regimen. And it really prompted me to create something that I felt was ethical, that was organically produced, that it was environmentally responsible and using the purest ingredients. So I have developed a skincare line called Skinversation. And Skinversation is outside in skincare. Yes, because, we need to be diligent, and we need to think about what we're putting on our body, because it's literally going into our skin. It is processed by our liver and things like that. So we have a tween line that we're starting with. And we decided to start with tweens because so often tweens use their mother's products, or they see something that's popular and they want it, but it's really not formulated for teen skin. So we wanted to make sure that we develop something that gets you to provide this for young people, and also gets them in the habit of taking care of their skin. Some people are born with great skin. Some people have to really work at it. And so this is kind of one of those introductory things that we're bringing to the table. The other thing that we're doing is we've created a magnesium butter that is going to target. Magnesium is the number one mineral deficiency in the world.
Wow.
And there's so many issues that are associated with it: lack of sleep, joint pain, brain fog. And so this magnesium butter, put on your skin, just like a little dollop on your skin, is going to give you the magnesium that you need that will address those issues. And just really, magnesium is something that is needed for every single cell in your body, and we're deficient in it. So what we're providing is a way for you to address that towards optimal health through skincare.
That's amazing. Well, when you have this skincare line available and it's official and it's ready to go, we'd love to hear more about it and to be able to share that with our listeners. Do you have like a landing page or somewhere where someone could get some preliminary information yet?
Not as yet, but we are working on it. And when we come out, you will know.
Please let us know.
So
Please let us know.
Skinversation outside in skincare. It's Skinversation skincare that says it all.
I love that. So I actually send out a weekly newsletter as well from my personal brand. That's called Inner Game Monday. And I'm always sharing like kind of holistic resources. So I would love to include it there as well. So you just let me know when that's ready.
That's
and
great.
we will get that shared with everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I got one more question. Before we go, we need your 5 favorite musicians or rappers. Your 5. We asked every artist that. I don't think we asked you last time.
Okay.
Give us your 5 top Chef CC artists or rappers from 1 to 5, or from 5 to 1.
Okay. So artists, Layla Hathaway.
Wow.
I love
Layla
Layla.
Hathaway. Okay.
Her voice is like liquid velvet.
Okay.
Shalea Frazier.
Okay.
Somebody that I love. I've known Shalea since she was like 8 years old. And to me, Shalea is the epitome of, there's a verse in Proverbs that says, "Seest thou a man who is diligent in his work? He will stand before kings and not mean men." And I love that because her discipline, her pursuit of excellence, she literally sang at the Vatican last week.
Oh, wow.
Like
I have to. I don't know her, but I'm gonna listen to her.
I wrote it down.
I was just like, Shalea, the Vatican,
Yeah.
you know, and it just shows what's inside of all of us. There's something inside of all of us that if we pursue it, you know, Robert, you've done it.
Yeah.
If you pursue it, it's impossible to pursue excellence and not achieve something. Even if you don't get there, you may discover something else along the way. So Layla, Shalea, Frazier, I love Take 6.
Okay, you gotta include family.
There was genre bending. I think that they have got some of the most incredible voices. My brother in particular had recreated the bass sound, and there are people that do it that have no idea where it even came from.
Wow.
I think he's incredible. I said, Layla, I have to say Donnie. Donnie Hathaway is a voice that is unparalleled, that will never be matched.
Right.
And then I'll say Nat King Cole.
There we go. That's my mom's number 1.
I love Nat King Cole. And if I could add a 5.5 or 6, I would say somebody like Johnny Mathis. I saw Johnny Mathis early spring in Sarasota, California. I think at the time he was 89 years old. He stood up for 2 hours and sang beautifully.
That's my brother's favorite artist, Johnny Mathis.
Love Johnny. San Francisco native. Well, grew up there from Dallas, but those are my artists. In terms of rap, I would have to go old school.
Yeah, old school.
I would have to go old school. Yeah, but those are people that I can listen to on repeat.
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again for a second time.
Chef
CC. I know our audience is going to love.
You gotta have Chef CC on every year.
Well, maybe we can get her brother on so we can talk about the space sound. That would be amazing.
I'm sure he would love to do that.
But for our viewers out there, of course, again, we're here live from the Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Well, live for us, but not live for you. But some of our top highlights from today's podcast are stay off social media, avoid processed foods, meditate, exercise, be disciplined, and maintain consistency. Any one of those could be your start today, and that will take you into all 6 for tomorrow. And again, if you need any assistance, please visit our resource page at kennedykids.org. And of course, dial 988 for assistance, and for emergencies, please dial 911. And thank you so much for tuning again to Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Thank you, Chef CC.
Thanks, Chef.
Bye-bye.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time.